woozy. Seeing the animal's deathly struggle, he shouldered his flintlock and sighted, firing down past rock and brush to where the horse lay bleeding and broken. When the animal stilled, he gritted his teeth against the jarring impact as he leapt from the trace onto a slick ledge of limestone below, gun held high in his right hand, all in an ungraceful attempt to rescue the provisions the bay had been carrying. Reaching bottom, he looked up to find 8 wide eyes on him, all but Nate Stoner, who kept his back to the chasm, his rifle trained on the hills above in case of ambush. Fingers cold and cramped, Shawn set his rifle aside, took out his hunting knife, and sliced free the precious stores of gunpowder and bullet lead. Once they were secured to his back, he began the slow uphill climb. Twice he nearly tumbled backwards, his footing unsure, gaze clouded with snow. By the time he reached the top and his chain carriers rushed to lighten his load, he was bruised and bloody-knuckled, the earth driven deep beneath his fingernails, the mournful weight of a lost pack-horse pressing down with a vengeance. A warm, wet nuzzle to his hand brought comfort. Smoky, his collie, leaned into him before bounding ahead with a sharp yip to spur him on. The trace couldn't climb much higher. The tree line was thinning, the snow miraculously slowing. His muddy moccasins sank into sand, a strange sensation after so much rock. Overhead was a cavern. Sand Gap. The tumult of falling water met his ears, the mist of the falls like ice. He looked back to make sure all was in order. All was, yet he was unable to shake that shadowed feeling. Truly, who would be out on such a forbidding day, other than a bunch of witless surveyors bent on Indian territory? Facing forward again, Smoky beside him, Shawn crossed the cavern, eyes west, the cave's dimness offset by a startling burst of light. Years earlier he'd heard of this place, but Boone and Walker hadn't done it justice. Their tales of its grandeur seemed tattered and lackluster. Shawn stood in the gap, wordless, barely aware of his surveying crew fanned out around him. The wind had ceased its bitter sighing. Before them was a pewter sky, a bluish haze of mountains, and then endless, untrammeled, unredeemed wilderness. Shawn hated that Cornelius broke the spell. "Here we shall rest, surely." "Here, aye," Shawn answered, "for a quarter of an hour or so." Shooting him a black look, Cornelius retreated into the cavern with his manservant, Lucien, and the 2 chain carriers. Nate stood shoulder to shoulder with Shawn, gaze unbroken. "I misdoubted I'd live to see such a wilderness, but I'm glad I did." He drew in a ragged breath. "O Lord, how manifold are thy works! In wisdom thou hast made them all. The earth is full of thy riches." The scripture chafed, intruding on Shawn's appreciation. Tearing his attention from the view, he began to reload his rifle, distracting himself with powder and shot. "This here gap's the best, and the worst of it, I reckon," Nate mused, still agape. "You reckon wrong." Shawn poured powder down the barrel and rapped it with his hand to set the charge. "There are 3 choke points on Boone's trace. The Narrows are next, and a spring-soaked river to ford further down." "Don't sound so gleeful." The gleam in Nate's eyes eclipsed his worry. "I know you would like to get shit of us and go your own way, just like you've been doing 30 years or better." Shawn grinned and drove the ball home. "The way I figure it, I'm saddled with a lot of you till the surveying's done." Nate scratched his silvery chin. "You see any sign back there at the spring?" With a nod, Shawn closed the gun's frizzen. "Shawnee, 6 or so. Mayhap a couple of Wyandotte thrown in." Nate's shoulders convulsed in a shiver. "Outnumbered, then." Meeting the older man's gaze, Shawn decided against confessing his certainty they were still being watched, even as their frosted breath plumed between them. "We'll make a cold..."